Welcome to the Secure CIO, the podcast for technology executives who are tasked with hiring and retaining great cybersecurity leaders. Join best-selling author Claire Pales together with industry thought leaders as they answer your questions about sourcing the right leaders, building cybersecurity teams, candidate selection, salaries, skills, and more.
Hello, I'm Claire Pales and welcome to the Secure CIO podcast. Today's guest is Niamh Fitzpatrick. Niamh has over 20 years' experience in product and technology across a range of industries. She started her career as a software engineer in the finance and consulting sector in Ireland before moving to Australia in 2006. Since then, she's held director-level roles in both technology and product at Fairfax Media, leading development and product teams on some of Australia's most well-known and highly trafficked sites. In 2016, Niamh joined Facebook in an Asia-Pacific role, leading a team of senior managers responsible for business opportunities and growth with technology and creative partners across the region. Niamh has a love of startups and is passionate about the future of work and the changing employment landscape. Niamh is the co-founder of Puffling and heads up product and technology function. Niamh, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Hi, Claire. Thanks for having me.
So let's start with some of the key information about Puffling. Why did you start the business and how many staff do you have working for you? What's the vision for Puffling?
Well, Puffling launched in 2017 and it was actually as a result of personal experience. So Leah Wilson, who's my co-founder, she had experienced the not uncommon challenge of returning to her career and maintaining seniority and salary after having children. So she had spent close to 20 years in digital businesses, running large marketing departments across Sydney and Melbourne, and her career came to a real crossroads when she was rejected on her request for flexible work options. So despite most businesses claiming that they supported flexible work and gender equality at senior levels, in reality, when Leah was looking to come back after maternity leave, most were unequipped to really offer flex roles or to think differently about how to attract and engage and retain senior female talent. So Leah, at that time, given her own situation, she realized that a new model was required, one which educated and supported businesses in designing roles for flexibility as well as helping them to reach their diversity and inclusion targets. So it really was born out of her own situation when she was returning to work. So Leah and I had worked together in Fairfax Media. So we worked in a division where she was group marketing director and I was technology director. So this is back probably around 2012. We've similar work ethics and a shared passion for wanting to improve diversity and flexibility at senior levels. So us joining forces to build Puffling together was really quite an easy transition for us to make. So we run the business together. We have an offshore development team, which is managed locally here in Sydney. And then we have a number of freelance employees who work flexibly to help us manage day-to-day operations. We believe that Puffling has a big opportunity to disrupt the way businesses consider talent attraction and retention. We are ready to disrupt the recruitment market with a new take on how to attract and retain talent by offering unique products and services on both sides of the market. And in terms of our vision for Puffling and Puffling Tech, which is our recently launched platform, we want these platforms to be the platform of choice for employers and talent when they're considering a role change.
So I was going to say about Puffling Tech, by the time this episode airs, Puffling Tech will be live. So what's the difference between Puffling and Puffling Tech and what's driven you to create a second, more niche platform?
Well, over half of our briefs last year were for tech roles. And this is everything from UX to design, PMO, engineering, security, architecture, transformation and C-level. So it's a really broad spectrum. We know that tech is a critical driver of any business and the need for tech talent is increasing, as is the breadth of what tech encompasses. And we found that a lot of the roles briefed to us were also looking at increasing gender diversity in their tech teams. And those businesses came to us because we have a community of predominantly senior women, a lot of whom are off-market or passive job seekers, who are looking to return back to work with progressive employers. So we really thought long and hard about how we could continue to support our Puffling community, which is that senior female talent pool, as well as then looking at this whole area of tech, which we wanted to help service. So instead of changing the core platform, we decided instead that we would spin off a sister brand called Puffling Tech, which supports hires from graduate through to C-suite across all of those technology disciplines. Puffling Core then remains as senior candidates across all industries. Typically, our candidates on Puffling are over 92% female. Many of them have over 14 years experience across a range of industries, whereas our candidates on Puffling Tech are from graduate right through to C-suite across all aspects of technology.
And is there a particular industry vertical or type of business who's currently really embracing flexible working? And I guess what's changed for them to make them choose the option of providing flexible work roles?
We have seen huge shifts to flexible work in the past few years, really across all types of industries. So everything from finance to insurance, government, telco. Some of our more progressive employers are large corporates like ANZ, IAG, NBN and Service New South Wales. And they're really wholeheartedly embracing flexible work and progressive work practices. And this isn't an easy thing for a large corporate to do. So they have a lot of policies, a lot of procedures, they have big teams in place. But they do know that moving to flexibility and increasing diversity and inclusion and thinking about that at all levels of the organization is really key, not just to retaining talent, but really now to attracting talent in the current marketplace. We constantly hear about the war on talent, yet 50% of women don't return to work after maternity leave, and a whopping 56% of women drop out of tech roles mid-career. So this is a huge pool of experienced and talented women who are dropping out of the market right when businesses need their experience and expertise. We also know that over 80% of Australians want to work flexibly. This is men and women for a variety of reasons, not always related to childcare. It may be a side hustle, it may be education, it may be having a parent at home or having somebody else to care for. But flexibility has become increasingly important and a real driver when it comes to moving roles. For senior talent, it's even cited as being ahead of pay increases in terms of attracting senior talent to new roles. So I guess the data makes it really clear that organizations need to think differently about how they're going to attract and retain good talent and senior talent, and flexibility is a real key to that. And we think that's definitely helping these organizations think differently about attraction and retention. And that's where we want to come in and help them even make that shift faster.
When we met, we talked about job sharing, which is, I guess, one type of job flexibility. And a lot of organizations don't necessarily get this right the first time. What would you say are the top 3 factors that cause job sharing arrangements to be unsuccessful?
Well, if I flip it around and I think about what makes job share successful, the things I would say are great communication skills first and foremost. So you are 2 people operating as one. So if there's a handover to ensure that it's working for the business, that communication between the partners has to be really clear and concise and effective. They have to have excellent collaboration and a shared vision and values for the role. And I think the third thing is having buy-in at a leadership level and a willingness to support the pair. So making sure that KPIs and shared outcomes are properly designed and making sure that the role is designed as a job share and not just as 2 people coming together with 2 part-time roles. So I guess the opposite of those lead job shares to be unsuccessful. And I guess the other thing that springs to mind is the stigma attached to job share, where a lot of people still seem to think that it's only applicable for junior or admin roles, which is not the case. A lot of successful job shares are very senior leaders. So there's 2 wonderful women, Lucy Foster and Catherine Vanderveer, who are joint CEOs of Generation Life, who are absolutely doing a fantastic job in a job share. And we see a lot of job shares fail when we have 2 part-timers who are forced to come together. They're not necessarily choosing to role share, but they're just put together. And it's not the kind of chemistry or partnership that we would like to see to make the role successful.
You mentioned communication as one of the things that makes it successful. So why do you think communicating the job share arrangement to the business is so key to its success?
So job sharing it's still quite new to the market. It's a different way of working. Showing leadership buy-in support is really important because it helps to manage stakeholders' expectations. It manages the rest of the business. It also empowers the employees to fully own the role and to focus on the business outcomes and to focus on the job and not in explaining or justifying why they're not going to be at a meeting on Thursday and why their partner is going to be there instead. So it just empowers them to really focus on doing a great job and not thinking about the logistics of the role and how that looks to the rest of the business. Communicating a flexible working applies not just to role share, but to all types of flex. So by having employers wholeheartedly supporting flex, it shows the employers as progressive and forward-thinking, supportive of new ways of working that support both the employee and the business. And we think that's a real key to making sure that the broader business understands the benefits of flexible work and supports that.
So you're currently running a startup, which, as I know, because I'm also running a startup, that's practically the opposite of job sharing. It's basically working 3 or 4 jobs at one time. And so I guess it seems like there are jobs that can't really be shared. What's been your experience around roles that are better suited to job share arrangements?
I was stifling a laugh as you were asking that question, because I think we're definitely job sharing, and we're definitely doing the 3 or 4 roles at once, as you mentioned. I think when you're in a startup, and I think for Leah and I, we're most definitely job sharing, whether we call it that or not. And we're doing it because we have to be across all aspects of the business. So we share running the business. We have complementary skill sets. My background is in product and tech. Leah's is in marketing, which means we bring different perspectives to the business and different perspectives to challenges. But we are both across all aspects of the business, from day-to-day operations to strategy to long-term growth. It all falls on the two of us. So we both end up wearing multiple hats every day, and we have to rely on the other person and trust that the other person is doing the same. If you're lucky enough to have a co-founder in a startup, then you're probably role sharing whether you realize it or not. But we definitely see our complementary skill sets and different backgrounds as being a benefit. In terms of roles that aren't suitable to job share arrangements, people often ask us that, and really the response is typically that we think the role share partnership itself is more important than the role. If you have the right pair with the right chemistry, with shared values and shared vision in terms of how they want to approach the role, then there really are few roles that can't work with this arrangement in our experience.
So part of people's desire to move is around flexibility, I guess, and what suits them from a personal perspective, but also the type of organisation they want to work for. And we've chatted before about what motivates people to move jobs. And you were saying to me that it's not really money or free beer that might drive somebody to join a particular organisation or another, or those types of things are quite nice. What do you think motivates people to change jobs?
Well, the number one question that we get from candidates before they consider a new position is, what's it really like to work there? So the money and the free beer is great. We're not knocking that at all. But there's a point in a career where that's almost a hygiene factor. So that's sort of table stakes, that you're going to be on a par with other employers in the industry. So it really comes down to the culture, the working environment, the leadership team, employee support in terms of coaching and mentoring and inclusion, and what sort of career path is available within the business. This is especially true for women, and especially true for women in tech. So part of what we're hearing again from our Puffling Tech candidate base is really wanting to understand, what's it really like to work in this business? What is their vision for diversity at leadership level? What is their approach to mentoring and to coaching and to career progression? And how will I feel included in what is still a very male-dominated environment? So employers have always known that the coaching and mentoring and that inclusion part is very important in terms of retention. But now they're also realizing that really their employer brand has to be first and foremost to actually attract the top talent in the first place. I'm pretty sure it was Peter Drucker who said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I think that was about 20 years ago, but that really still holds true today. And it's definitely something that we see when we talk to candidates about if they're trying to choose between organizations or find the right fit for them. It's all about that employer brand and the culture.
So from your perspective, if you're dealing with organizations who are coming to you, or even for those who aren't, what sort of advice do you give them around how to attract flexible candidates to their teams and for their available roles?
There's a couple of things we talk to employers about. And probably first and foremost is ensuring that you've designed the role appropriately. So if it's a 4-day role, then make sure it's scoped at a 4-day role, and that it's not an expectation that, well, you're actually going to squeeze 5 days into 4. You need to make sure that KPIs align with the role that you've designed. On both sides, for both the candidate and the employer, it's important to respect the flexibility that's been agreed to. communication, which we talked about earlier, communicating that to the rest of the team is really important. So the candidate feels supported and the rest of the team have the correct expectations about how they're going to interact with them when they're available, etc. And I think it's also important for employers to realize that flex means different things to different people. So there's a whole list of the different types of flex. So that's everything from a 9-day fortnight to part-time to 4 days a week to a compressed working week to term time agreements to working from home. There's a whole spectrum. So what works for someone in terms of flex might be quite different for someone else. So I think realizing that it's not a one-size-fits-all is really important for the business. And again, communicating that effectively to the leadership team and to the rest of the business is really important. And I guess to top all of that then is really having leadership support and advocacy for flexible work. So having a vocal leadership team who are leading by example, walking the talk and not just talking about flexibility, but really not adhering to that in the day-to-day.
So Niamh, how can people find out more about Puffling and also Puffling Tech and yourself and Leah?
So we're on the socials. We're at facebook.com/Puffling. We're linkedin.com/company/Puffling. Obviously, our sites are directly puffling.com.au and our new site, which is pufflingtech.com.au. We would love people to go register on our sites, see what kind of roles we have. We're adding new roles all the time, especially on Puffling Tech, because we've just launched that. So we have some fabulous roles coming up over the next couple of weeks. We often get roles from employers before they go to market. So it's also great to be on there, even if you're not actively looking for a new role, to see the type of roles and types of caliber of businesses that we're working with as well. We'd love everybody listening to the podcast to come and register and to share us with their friends. And we're always keen to hear from both employers and talent on their experiences in the changing employment landscape. Leah and I are both accessible on LinkedIn and on Facebook through Puffling, so feel free to reach out. We'd love to chat further.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing with us today about the Puffling journey. And I want to wish you all the best with Puffling Tech as well and the success of both businesses. And I really appreciate your time.
Thanks so much, Claire. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks so much for listening. For more information on all our guests, check out the show notes at thesecurecio.com, where you can also find more information on the Secure CIO framework and sign up for my newsletter. If you loved the show, please subscribe to the podcast and feel free to leave me a 5-star rating. I'll see you next week.